So today's video we're ranking productivity influencers, and as you can imagine we're going to give you our opinions on these guys. It's not going to be brutal, don't worry, but we're excited to share the best channels you can follow in productivity, and we're going to miss out a few, so we'll list them all below. However, we'll probably do a part 2 if we manage to get some time. So if you're new here, we are a productivity channel, so make sure you subscribe. It's Keep Productive. It'd be great to have you here in the community, but this one is just a little bit of a fun video. We'd normally do reviews and all types of breakdowns on top 10 different applications you could use. So we've picked out a few people in the space. We've got 3 ratings: solid, great, and super. So solid is those folks who are brilliant YouTubers and covering productivity. Great is just slightly more, not interesting. I'm just being a savage video. Slightly more sort of intriguing, let's say that. And super is those channels that I think definitely you should check out as a must watch on YouTube. Obviously these are all must watch, but we're just narrowing them down for you. We haven't given these ratings below because we don't think any of these channels are bad or worse, or whatever ranking we'd call that. So let's go through this list and let's rank these guys. Right, so we're going to start left to right, and as you can see here, we have a familiar face as our top sort of option. So we have Ali Abdaal. He runs a fantastic channel. To be honest, I really like Ali's content because the way that he breaks down stuff and the way that he presents videos is particularly well done. What he does really well is capture stuff on screen so that you guys really get to grips with all the information that you need to know, whether that's top apps or whether it's a productivity hack or recommendation. So I'm going to put Ali in great. I'm not going to put him super just because he gets enough attention already. However, I think he has a fantastic channel. So next up is Thomas Frank. So Thomas is obviously someone that I've followed for a fair while, and I think his content again is brilliant. What I really like that differs from many of the other channels, maybe apart from Matty, is his content so cinematic in the way that he presents stuff. He tells a really good story and he condenses his videos with great scientific facts and information. So I'm also going to put him on rank with Ali as well. Now the next one is Shu Omi. Now for those who don't know, Shu runs a fantastic channel. It covers things like notes, productivity methodologies and concepts, but it also covers apps like Roam Research and also fairly newer apps that are covering the bidirectional linking space. So I'm definitely putting him as super because I think he's a really up and coming channel, and the way that he puts together a video is phenomenal just because of the way that he does take a simple a complex concept and makes it simple, which I think for a lot of people that are, say new to like Zettelcast and they're like, what is that? He does a great job of bringing it down to earth. So I've got Muchelle B up next. I'm also going to put her alongside Ali and Thomas. She runs a brilliant channel. I believe she's Australian, and she covers, it's mainly like productivity tips and recommendations, but she does it again in a very cinematic, relaxed way. She has some great workbooks and resources, a bit like Lavender, who runs a channel on YouTube as well. She covers sort of like the practical tips and recommendations to improving certain aspects of your life, whether that's eating a bit healthier or approaching, cleaning your wardrobe out a little bit more, and even productivity apps and tools like we cover here on the channel. So next up is Matt Diavella. I am going to put him in solid. This is not a dig or anything like that. I feel like it is because the ranking is like, it is still a ranking. But I really like Matt's content, but I really like the way that he presents a video as like a really good story, a bit like Thomas does, very cinematic, very easy to follow. But I'm going to say just a little bit less, only because I think the way that he does it, sometimes I feel like that he covers the same story a couple of times, but that's only a little bit of a nickel. But it's probably because we're in the productivity app tool space and they're like, something's news every time. But everyone could say that about me. They're probably like, oh, this is another to-do snap. Looks the same as the other one. But you know what I mean? So just personal preference, okay? If you're watching, I'm sorry. Okay, next up is Harishibar. I'm going to put her content as super. Again, someone who deserves a lot more subscribers in terms of their content. So I've featured her in my top 12 productivity channels, which I recommend to check out below. But basically, she does content about like all different applications, but I quite like her approaches and reviews, specifically like when she did her Obsidian, Taskade and Notion reviews. They were really in depth, much better than mine. And also what I liked about it is she granularly breaks down features, but also because of the way that her channel's set up, she exposes potential issues with productivity apps, like more recently when she covered the Notion E2E encryption side of stuff, and also the whole productivity space and why there is an issue. I really like how she explained the concept and how she delivered it as well in the video. Much like Shu, she takes a concept that's quite complex and brings it down to a simple level. So Mike and Matty are also a great channel. I think that alongside Ali and Thomas, they do content more for students. They're actually part of the team at Remnote, the founding members, I believe it is, but they cover all types of feature comparison and breakdowns for things like Remnote, Notion, and all that, and which one's more suitable for different situations. But they also do some breakdowns of methods and tools. Now, next up is, I'm going to put great to Peter Akkies. He is an Amsterdam-based, I believe it's Amsterdam, or Netherlands in general, I think he's an Amsterdam-based YouTuber who has more recently been making videos about Things 3 and OmniFocus, but also about sort of methodologies and concepts. I really like Peter is very much following the older frameworks like Getting Things Done by David Allen, but I think he does a really good job of explaining it and bringing it all together. So next up is Effective Remote Work, which is run by a friend, Justin DeRose. So I've got to be careful on where I put him. No, I'm just kidding. But basically, Justin does great content, and he covers mainly about how remote work, sort of overview stuff, but he really digs deep into Obsidian. We have an Obsidian course together, but he does some great dives into how bidirectional linking and the concepts like that work as well. So I'd recommend it if you're looking at sort of those sort of deeper note-taking applications that you might want to use every day. Now, next up is Steve Dotto. Now, I'm going to put Steve in solid. I will explain why, because I followed Steve since Steve was one of the reasons I started doing YouTube, because I remember when I was in my room, this is probably about 10 years ago, I was ready to go to university. I was in my parents' room, my house, and I was like watching YouTubers, and Steve just did such a great job at covering productivity apps, and I obviously knew like really high interest in productivity apps and how they work, and Steve was really good in terms of, you know, not influencing me but inspiring me to do that sort of content. I've put him in solid just because he doesn't cover productivity apps as much anymore. He covers more sort of content creation tools. However, I still highly rate Steve in terms of his content, especially when he covers Evernote and things like that, really in depth, and his personality oozes through on the channel. He is such it's weird now because we worked for a couple of years on a course together, and when I started working with him, I got such huge imposter syndrome because he's such, like, when you've watched someone since you were younger and you get to work with them, it's insane because you're like, whoa, I shouldn't be doing this, because it's like we're sort of bringing back down to reality. But what Steve is like, he is, you know, all the way through, you know what I mean? He's somebody that really is true to his character, like such a nice guy, really smart, really, I love what he's doing with sort of the over 50s in terms of like getting them and aspiring them to do content. It's really impressive. So huge kudos to him. So Simpletivity, another super channel. So I didn't think I'd be putting this one in super, but I think that Scott's content on his channel is doing so well in terms of the amount of apps he covers. He does a better job at me at bringing together all these different apps and stuff like that. And I really love the way that he presents it. Scott's got a very impressive skill at being able to present information in a really relaxed manner, but also explaining all the urgency and details at the information you need to know. And I really like that style. It covers everything from Trello to ClickUp and everything in between. Brilliant content. So Carl is another great channel. Carl is one of those people that just consistently puts out content. Like, he's done over like 100 or 200 videos on Todoist and 100 videos on Evernote. It's insane. He's pretty much like probably put most courses out of business because he's offering so much great free content. And I really like Carl's approach to videos as well. He has so much energy in person, and I think he's like such a nice person, really interesting character as well. Got a huge love for James Bond as well, which is really cool. So I'm going to put Danny Hatcher in super. I I think he's got some huge potential, and I'll explain why. So Danny does videos about, he does a range of different videos, but mainly productivity apps and tools, and he does quite a large amount of live chats and deep dives. But what Danny does really well, and we actually chatted not in person on the call about this a bit more, but what Danny does really well is he has started to humanize productivity a bit more, and he's doing these things like sketches around productivity, or skits I think they're called. So it's not sort of like, it's making it fun and more interesting. And that's really good, because for a lot of people that come into this space, it can be quite daunting and overwhelming, and like, oh my God, I've got to be following all these people, or I've got to be using this tool, or I've got to be approaching it in this way. But the way that he's bringing a lot of humor into productivity is a great move. I think hopefully in the future I can work with him on one if I get polish up on some acting skills or something like that. But I think he does a fantastic job of creating these really smart little videos. And he's also, I only checked out yesterday, he's done a video on productivity news, which is quite cool. So he's overviewing all of the lessons that people were sharing on their YouTube channels. So it's like a content curation channel right there. It's brilliant. Next up is Tom Solid. And as for a surname, I'm going to put him as Solid. Tom does a great job on his channel at what he does really well is he blends not just physical experiences, but he blends digital experiences as well. And he has a great way of presenting them. I really like how Tom does his scan and printer reviews in such a high level of detail. Tom's the sort of person that if you asked him like what application he uses, he could tell you the granular features in every one of them. And that is sometimes really rare in the productivity space, because sometimes when you become knowledgeable about something, you also lose some knowledge, and he does a great job of overviewing that. So I'm going to put him in Solid, but again, I think his content is fantastic. Next up is Mariana's Study Corner. Again, I'm going to put her in Solid as well. I think her content's really good. She's great at overviewing apps and also tips and recommendations for improving the way that you work. Layla Pomper, I think Layla Pomper, I don't want to get her last name wrong, but she does mainly a ClickUp channel. Again, a really solid channel, a really impressive content. What she does really well is she summarizes the best ClickUp videos and hones in deep, especially on the automation side. She does and has her own courses and consulting. So if you're looking at ClickUp, I'd recommend checking that out. Bryan Jenks is another channel I put in super. Again, up and coming, doing a super job in producing some videos, but about like Obsidian and different types of bidirectional linking applications, but going super deep in terms of what plugins to use, how to set things up, workflows. It is pretty impressive. Linking Your Thinking, another one, Nick Milo. His content is stupidly good, and mainly because what he's doing is he's again bringing the bidirectional linking market, which I think is a hobbyist market, into the front frame, and really impressive content right here. I definitely think he's doing something that is much like Danny Hatcher, making it more engaging, more fun. His visuals, I think he does a lot of TV editing at the moment, but he's also great at bringing that together, and you can tell from the content. So finally, I accidentally did a duplicate of that one, but it's Mike Vardy, a productivityist, runs a channel, only posts less often than maybe more other these guys, but I really love his content because when he posts it, what Mike does, he makes it really authentic, and learning lessons from Mike over the years has been really beneficial. Much like Steve Dotto, I found them sort of like my work uncles. Sort of like helping me to make better decisions in my productivity. Both Mike and I think Mike Moore is definitely given, before we had Otto, definitely our boy, definitely a lot of advice about how to approach things, and I'm implementing that more and more as time goes on, like the day theming concepts, instead of like overwhelming myself, and I'm very grateful. And I think his channel is a great summary of how when he's on video he can do a great job at explaining a concept and making it very authentic. So folks, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. That was all of the productivity influencers. Leave your favorite productivity influencers if you missed them below, and maybe we'll do a ranking. I'll watch a couple of their videos if I haven't yet already, and I'll do a deep dive into them in maybe a part 2 of this. But hopefully you enjoyed it. If you're new here, it'd be great to have you as a subscriber, so please do make sure you do that. Again, comment, and look forward to your opinions. Let me know if I was a bit too brutal. Maybe you rank someone higher than I do, but it'd be great to hear how I got on. But thanks very much, folks, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Cheerio.